Hey guys, welcome back to Homestead-ish. And today I'm going to kind of go over some of the must-haves if you're going to start gardening or if you're going to plant flowers, anything you're going to do outside where you're going to be digging in the dirt. I'm going to break it down into must-haves, things that would be nice to have, and then things that you can either borrow from other people or wait on because they're bigger investments. So the first thing that I think everyone sort of forgets about is the number one thing. Clothes. They could get dirty. As you can see, you don't necessarily want to wear your work clothes out there. I usually try to wear jeans. If I don't wear long sleeves, if I do wear short sleeves, another thing that I put is sunscreen and a big floppy hat. In case you haven't noticed my Irish heritage, I will absolutely get burnt and never will tan, but will just go back to pale again. So sunscreen is a big deal. Clothes that you can get dirty is a big deal. A hat to keep your face from the sun is a big deal, especially if you plan on being out there for hours at a time. That's something that most of us that work in offices especially aren't used to, and so it won't take much for us to burn. If you have tattoos or anything else that will be aged by the sun, it's also a good idea to keep them either covered or slathered with sunscreen. Also boots. I have a pair that I was actually given for Christmas, so they're a little bit more expensive than the ones you can find. The ones that I was using before for years and years for different things were just cheap water boots that I got from Walmart or dollar store somewhere. Just something that if you do happen to get muddy or nasty, that you can pull them off without having to untie, and all that stuff is a lot easier. Of course, if all you have is a regular pair of hiking boots or something like that, as long as you don't mind them getting dirty or wet, you can use anything you want to. I've also been known to use old tennis shoes that have been hot glued back together so many times that they're not really good for actual use anymore, except for out in the garden. So that's some of the important stuff, as well as water bottle. You need to make sure that you stay hydrated, especially once it gets into the peak of summer and you're out and about. You'll get dehydrated very quickly. So that's the big main things that you need to have. You have to have before you get started. Now, as far as the actual stuff in the garden, to get your basic flower garden or your basic vegetable garden started, you don't need much. Now, obviously, the more you do it or the bigger it gets, you're going to want to kind of upgrade. But the first thing for that is a good shovel, a good rake, good hoe, and for using all of those things, a good pair of gloves. You don't want blisters, and trust me, they will happen very quickly. Another thing that I just thought about because I saw it, I usually keep some sort of bandana either around my neck or wrapped around my arm, because nothing makes you feel the burn as much as trying to wipe sweat and you have sunscreen on your hands or dirt or anything else. So this will come in handy, or if you have it tied around your neck, bringing it up. So that helps. For digging in larger areas, you're going to need that big shovel. For moving dirt around, rake and hoe. Those are your basic tools, along with a hand trowel or hand shovel and a sharp blade of some sort, so that you can cut string, cut twine. There's going to be different things. You'd be surprised at how many times you're going to use this and don't realize that you need it until you need it. Also, if you're making fences, things like that, you can buy wire, you can buy stakes, the wooden stakes that go underground. You can buy all that kind of good stuff. Of course, me being someone who's trying to get as much done as possible without spending as much money as possible, a good hammer, nothing beats a good rock, and nothing beats a good stick that has been shaved down to a point at the end and just wrap twine or any sort of string that you may have hanging around. I reuse mine every year. You can also make it out of old t-shirts, which I can show you in a different video, but that will normally keep your dog, for the most part, and some other critters out, and let the kids, if you have kids, know that this is a no-go. This is not a sand pile that I actually have stuff growing there. Stay out of it. So obviously around here, we use these guys to clear areas because there's a lot of areas that we haven't prepared for planting yet. So we'll get tree roots after tilling and small tree roots, small sticks, things that are in the way, which is where this guy also comes in handy to get things out of the way, as well as to put points on the ends of sticks if that's what you're going to be using to rope off your territory, so to speak. Another thing that's nice to have, again, not everybody needs them, but a saw. If you're clearing out places that have bigger limbs or small trees, this is what you're going to need. And that's kind of the next level up. It's really nice to have a bag to put some of the smaller stuff in. And that's including things that you would be surprised that you need, like a marker or a pen or pencil. And I need to clean that out because there are spider webs in that bag. I don't want something coming out at me that I don't want. Also, having some sort of notebook to keep things in would be great. Not a necessary have to have, but it helps with future planning and reusing things. A way to move water if you don't have a sprinkler system or watering can. We have a creek and we've been doing it the hard way. So I do have a watering can, but it's down there at the garden, and a 2-gallon bucket. I just dip it in the creek, take the water where I need it. It doesn't have to be fancy. A lot of my tools I inherited. You can tell that they've been around for a hot minute. They're not exactly something that I went out and bought. They were found at garage sales, yard sales, some of the things I inherited from parents or grandparents. Some of the things have been broken off before and then replaced with other handles from other places. So they're a bit of a Frankenstein variety here. Now, another thing that's nice to have, especially if you're going to be down on the ground, is one of these guys to put under your knees. So if you're on your knees a lot where the garden is, if it's in the ground, if it's not a raised bed, this will be, especially for those of us who are no longer in our 20s, that will be a lifesaver for you. I think that's about it as far as all of the things that you should probably either have to have or is nice to have, depending on your area and what you're actually doing, whether your place has been prepared already or whether you're digging up something new. And some of the nice to have things that you don't necessarily need, but work out great when you have a bigger area or you're clearing areas. A wheelbarrow, especially if your place is further away that you're planting from your home, having a wheelbarrow to come back and forth with dirt and other things. If you're moving rocks, you'll notice a lot of my beds, I have used rocks to outline. So if you're going to be hauling some of them around, it's going to be easier in a wheelbarrow than it is in those buckets. So those are nice to have. It's also nice to have a wagon of some sort. I don't have one. I've seen them with the big knobby wheels. Those are great to haul things around with. If you have friends that have, and these are the upper level, upper tier things that a lot of times people end up borrowing, or if you do this long enough, you'll end up collecting over the years. That would be things such as a four-wheeler or a very good riding lawnmower that you can pull things behind, so you can get trailers and things to put on them, and you can take things all over the place, which would be obviously more helpful on 17, 18 acres than it would be on like a half acre. Chainsaws are a good thing to have, but that's again that upper tier, upper level. You can always borrow or rent them, and also you may not need that. I'm surrounded by forest behind me, so a lot of times we may need, especially after Helene come through, we've been using the chainsaw quite a bit because things that used to stand up are now completely fallen down everywhere. So that's something, as well as a tiller, which you're going to get to see a little later. My father-in-law has one, and so when I plowed up my wheat field, which used to be really small last year, and it's going to be a lot bigger this year, it came in handy once he taught me how to use it. So that was a great handy thing to have. But again, I didn't buy it. It was his, so I'm using his. But it did do, it cut down a whole lot of handwork for such a large area, which again, you'll see, like I said, in a later video. Another great thing to have that I personally don't have, but my father-in-law has, would be a tractor. We've used that to haul logs and lots of heavy stuff. We're going to be using it later on, probably in this summer, to get supplies back and forth. Part of our cliff is falling off the front, and the other end of my beautiful porch right here may or not survive if we don't build a retaining wall. So we're probably going to be using that to haul supplies to get the retaining wall. Yep, so that's pretty much it. Great to have a four-wheeler, great to have a tractor, great to have all those things, but you don't have to have them. You don't need them. The only thing you really need: clothes to get dirty, decent pair of boots, sunscreen, gloves, a shovel, a rake, and maybe some pruning shears and some way to water. And that's about it. You can get started pretty cheap, pretty simple. And I guess the next thing I'll show you guys is my wheat field. So see you later.